All you writers and aspiring writers out there, welcome to today's episode of Quill Tips. In the light of the fact that it's the end of one year and the beginning of a new one, I thought I would cover the topic, do writers have New Year's resolutions? Well, of course they do. Don't be ridiculous. They're called deadlines. At least they're supposed to be called deadlines. I talked to about 2 or 3 dozen authors in the past week or so about how do they set up deadlines. And sometimes it's a publisher that sets it up for them, but most authors have self-imposed deadlines. To me, that's the same thing as a New Year's resolution, is it not? I'm trying to accomplish something by X date. Here's where the problem comes in and why we need to talk about this. As writers, you need to make your deadline real. I put up a blog post on Quill Tips, quilltips.com by the way, totally free, go check it out. But I put a blog up there recently about how I hate and love deadlines all at the same time. I hate deadlines because what happens is I'm blessed enough to, at this point in my career, kind of have publishers wanting to publish my work. But what happens is I'll submit a book idea, because I don't write the book first. I submit a book idea, we'll have some publishers kind of fight over it, then we'll finally land on a publisher. And a publisher will say, yes, Josh, awesome, let's publish this book. At that point, I'm a happy camper. But then they send in the questionnaire packets and all the bio information and all that sort of stuff. Along with it comes deadline. And all of a sudden I think to myself, oh, I actually have to write this stinking thing. When you're coming up with the idea, it's kind of fun. When you have to sit down and write it, it becomes a little hard. And oh man, now you have to figure out when you're going to write this, and do you do it in the morning, at night, whatever. And in another video I covered how even as a professional writer, it's hard to find time to write. But you get this deadline. So I hate the deadline, but I also love the deadline because the deadline is the thing that makes me have to do it. I have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The paper's already signed. The contract's a done deal. These publishers, they want the book by X date, and I have to deliver it. Well, with most authors, that's not the case. Most authors are self-imposed deadliners. And they're just self-imposed, which means they set a deadline, say, well, I'm going to finish my novel by next fall. And then nothing happens. Next fall comes and goes, and they're like, well, it's still a good idea, and I still got a few notes on it, maybe even a couple chapters, by next spring. And eventually next spring becomes 2020 or something. You have to set yourself a real deadline and make it real. How do you make it real? If I were you, what I would do is I would write a check for an amount. Just write a check for an amount that's a little painful if you had to actually cash the check. So $100, $200, $1,000, whatever's in that category for you. And then give that check to a friend and date the check the date that you are setting for your deadline. So let's say Bob is my buddy and I want to finish my novel by August 1st. I write Bob a check. Bob, here's a check, $250, dated August 1st, 2017. If I don't have the manuscript done and in the hands of my agent or publisher or submitted or whatever, you cash the check. Now, Bob makes the promise, I am going to cash this check. There's no, well, wait a second, I didn't know I was going to get the flu for 3 months in the middle. Doesn't matter. You're still a writer, write while you have the flu. He cashes that check on August 1st regardless. That is going to make you make that deadline. And that's the thing that most self-imposed deadline authors just don't have. They don't have the pain to make it happen. It's just a wish. Oh, I wish to write a novel someday. I wish to finish this manuscript. I wish it would be nice to be a famous writer and win an award or something. It's just a wish. It's a dream. Well, do you know what a dream not realized is? It's a nightmare. Because then that haunts you. You're another year older and you're thinking, well, it's okay. I can do it next year. Then you're another year older and you start to think, man, it would have been nice to have it finished. Then you're another year older and you're thinking, man, how could my life have been different if I actually would have finished the book? I don't want that pain for you anymore. I don't want it for you. Set yourself a deadline. That's your New Year's resolution. This new year, right now, just take a date in the future, put a stamp on it, write a check. If you have nobody to write a check out to, send it to me. I'll cash it. I'm kidding. Find somebody else. but seriously, write a check for an amount that hurts. It has to hurt. If it's just $10, you know, whatever. It has to be an amount that hurts. And I promise you, if you do this, you will hit your deadline. That's it for today's Quill Tips. Remember, subscribe to this channel, and if you're watching this on the Josh Tully channel, head on over to the Quill Tips channel too. Subscribe to Quill Tips, subscribe to the Josh Tully channel, go to quilltips.com, sign up for our free newsletter. We have contests, all that sort of stuff. And most importantly, if you are at that point where you know you want to be a professional writer, where you know you want to make a living honing your craft, then join our pro course, Quill Tips Pro. It's an amazing course. It's less than $12 a lesson, for goodness sakes. And if your writing's not worth $12, then maybe you should be in some other career. So go to Quill Tips, and sign up for the Quill Tips Pro course, and I can't wait to see you next time.